Hello, I'm Ken Bentley, and you're listening to The Sirens of Audio.
One of these days I'm going to turn around and go, you do the intro, Philip.
Yeah, and I'll say we'll start in 15 minutes' time.
Okay.
Sorry, it threw me when the thing popped up. It threw me totally. Ah!
Well, that was a lovely let me start again. It was lovely to catch up with Hugh.
It was.
You're supposed to say it was lovely to catch up with Hugh too.
Would you want to start again?
Let's start again.
I'll get it right.
Sorry. You start again.
G'day, audiophiles. This is The Sirens of Audio, the show that explores the universe of Doctor Who and the audio medium. I'm Dwayne.
And I'm Philip. G'day, Dwayne. G'day, audiophiles.
G'day, Philip. How are you going today? You're looking very happy.
I'm doing great. I've had a week's holiday. I went back to work today, which admittedly wasn't the best, but having a week off has been lovely and pottering around the house and getting things done. So it's been a lovely day.
I can't imagine you ever pottering around your house. There always seems to be something going on in your place.
Yeah, okay, yes. It has been a crazy week. We had 2 birthdays. We had someone move back to Melbourne. We had celebrations. Yeah, no, it's been busy. It's been fun.
Been busy. Busy,
Yep.
but fun. That's good. All right, we've got a great show coming up. We're going to be speaking with the incredible Hugh Ross, and something that we're both very excited about, being fans of Counter-Measures in particular, but he's done other things for Big Finish, so that'll be good, won't it?
He's done a lot of stuff, yes, and a huge history of theatre and movies and television
Massive.
as well. It's an amazing back catalogue.
Yes. All right, so before we do that, I just want to quickly mention our next live event, which in Sydney is happening on October the 14th. Is that correct?
It's correct, yeah, coming up in no time.
Yes, so we've got Katie Manning appearing live. Tell us about that.
Well, I don't want to give too much away. I will say it is her birthday. And so we are going to have some special to do with her birthday. And also I've said this as well, a lot of her family are coming. They've actually never seen her at a convention before. So,
wow.
Yeah, so
it's a historic occasion, this one.
It is. So, yeah, I believe both her children are coming. I believe her granddaughter's definitely coming because she's wanted to see her Nana perform. And so there'll be family there. We've got a couple of surprises for Katie's birthday. Don't tell her. And yes, it's a pretty amazing program. But once again, it's a whole idea of just a lot of face-to-face time with Katie. So interviews, Q&As, autographs, photos, quizzes, dinner. So it's just going to be, if you want lots of close contact with a Doctor Who person and ask her all those questions, you'd be dying to ask about Doctor Who, there's going to be lots of opportunities.
And just think about the era too. That era that Katie was in was a long time ago. So, time keeps marching on. So there may not be too many more opportunities to. Let's not hope that for sure, wish that for sure. But there's going to come a time when we won't have anyone from that era anymore. So it's always good to take advantage of that.
Well, most have passed on. So I mean, John's passed on. Aside from Katie, both other companions of John's era, Elizabeth Sladen and Carolyn John have both passed on. Nicholas Courtney's passed on.
We've got John Levine and Richard Franklin, but Richard Franklin's not hasn't been well, so he's unlikely.
He'll definitely not be coming out to Australia again. John Levine we'll keep him as a possibility down the track.
There's a possibility. Yeah, absolutely. All right, before we talk to Hugh Ross, that's coming up very soon. You know what we've got to do, Philip?
No, Dwayne, what do we have to do?
Oh, you do so. We're going to jump down the rabbit hole.
I know you get upset. I say I don't know. I can't win with you, Dwayne.
It's my thing. I always get upset. It's time to jump down the rabbit hole. Let's go. All right, Philip, we are in the rabbit hole, and I just want to talk briefly with you and get some thoughts on spin-offs. Now, we're going to be speaking with Hugh Ross, and of course the spin-off that he is associated with is Counter-Measures, which is a spin-off from Remembrance of the Daleks. And I want to throw this question at you, Philip. What makes a good spin-off? And if you were to create a spin-off yourself, what kind of ingredients would you be looking for?
Oh, that's a big question. A good spin-off, it has to have characters that you recognise who are still similar enough to the original to actually be the real characters. So you're looking for characters to come across. You're looking for a tone, though, that's different to the original. So I think it's really important when you do a spin-off that it's not exactly the same tone. So you want to capture the characterizations, but you want a tone of something new that's different. You don't just duplicate and make the same. I mean, it does seem to work. I mean, the whole, actually, not that I watch any of them. There's the whole NCI. What's the American crime show that goes
all the different CSIs?
CSIs. I mean, CSI wherever. To me, that looks like, and even the Law and Orders that happen everywhere too are all very much, they've actually kept exactly the same tone. I actually don't see the point of that, to be honest, and so I don't watch any of them. I actually want to make sure, though, that you actually have a slightly different tone. So, so when you look at Sarah Jane Smith Adventures, the tone was very different to Doctor Who. I mean, if anything, it's more like the traditional classical Doctor Who. But there's a different tone. Torch would have a different tone. So you do want to have a different tone. You want to recognize characters. I think part of the reason Class maybe didn't succeed was because you didn't carry any characters over. So it's supposed to be a spin-off, but there was no one that was recognizable in terms of the casting that they carried across. And I think that may be one of the reasons why it failed. But you also want it to have its own tone, have its own quality stories, and to be making a statement. I mean, good television is trying to say something, and you just want it to be saying something good. So that's some of the key things I think are important. Off the top of my head, having had no prep as always for your questions, Dwayne. What about you? What else do you think?
Well, I'm thinking specifically of the audio spin-offs, and if I was to come up with an audio spin-off from the Doctor Who universe, is there many more that we can possibly have? I'm sure there's some if we really think about it, but I haven't thought about it either. There is one in particular that I thought that Big Finish could have done, which our friend Brendan from Flight Through Entirety has always said he wanted, and I happen to agree with him, and that's a Duggan spin-off. We've had Tom Chadbon, who's worked with Big Finish, and we could have easily had a Duggan spin-off, which I think that could have been Big Finish trying pure comedy. He could have worked as a pure comedy character, with maybe characters from Doctor Who,
like a crimes comedy.
So maybe like a noir type style, where he's sort of always talking into our ears in that sort of Humphrey Bogart style, but doing crazy, stupid things. Like there are some comedy elements in all of Big Finish, but not to the extent that maybe Duggan could be. Could be much more comedy based. So that's one that they definitely could have done. I don't know if Tom Chadbon. Maybe they've had rights issues with Douglas Adams characters as well, because obviously that's a Douglas Adams character, so maybe they have looked at it, who knows. But with the spin-offs, I look at the spin-offs for different reasons. And specifically, if I think of something like Lady Christina, I always look at, I went into Lady Christina because I was enamored with Michelle Ryan. I liked her as an actress. I liked the single episode that she was in, but then the stories grew on me. Something like the Unit box sets, for instance, I was never particularly enamored with those characters. Maybe Osgood, but Kate Stewart, not so much. This is just me personally. But I went into the Unit series, and the stories were phenomenal. They were unbelievably good stories in the Unit box sets, most of the way through. There's hardly a dud in those.
And they create some extra secondary characters. That has some stunning secondary characters.
Yeah. And then you've got spin-offs that potentially could cross over with other things that I like the robots, for instance. I was always worried from the very beginning that the robots of Kaldor may cross over with the Kaldor City audios, which is not Big Finish related, but which featured Russell Hunter as Ivanov in a magnificent role. It's one of the best non-Big Finish audios, if not the best Big Finish Doctor Who, non-Big Finish Doctor Who spin-off. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I probably would. I think
it's pretty close.
I've listened to the series now 3 or 4 times, and every time I listen to it, I get something new out of it. And heck,
Yeah,
that
it's
was
just brilliant.
that's what attracted me to this podcast, was when you did that episode at the very start of everything years and years back. It was your views and talking about that really captured my imagination for this podcast. Because love that series.
Because you think, oh yeah, well it's Caldor City, yeah, that could be interesting. A bit of a crossover crossover of Doctor Who and Blake 7 in there, because there's not, even though it's got Paul Darrow in it, it's not specifically Avon, although you could, in your own headcanon, could think it is Avon, but the Blake 7 character is in there from, I can't think which episode it is now, but he was a psychostrategist. That's the Blake 7 character. Plus you've got the Doctor Who Caldor City robots, and Juvanov from the Robots of Death, which is absolutely brilliant. You've even got David. No, I can't think of his name. David Collings. David Collings from the Robots of Death was in that series too, playing a slightly different character. But was he the same? I don't know. A very, very fascinating series. I think we should get Alan Stevens on actually and have a chat to him about that. I think we're long overdue for that.
Yeah, well, I'd love to talk about that series anytime. That's for sure.
So I think for me, an attractive spin-off will be the characters first and foremost that you're attached to in the first place. However, Big Finish has such a good track record with all the stories that they do that even if you're not so enamoured with the characters as I wasn't with Unit, the new series Unit, the stories are just sensational. So they sort of very, very often, they very rarely have a dud when it comes to spin-offs, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I in terms of, I mean, they've had some duds in terms of financially that just haven't been successful. I think the one that springs to mind is the New Earth box set, which I actually enjoyed the stories in the New Earth. The
stories
box
were
set.
great. Yep.
But you're right. I mean, the unit box sets have just been brilliant, and doing all the links to the classical or different monsters and the whole box set. I mean, the Silence box set is so good when every story they have no awareness of the silence because they keep forgetting. It's very cleverly done, and you talk about the sets. It's bringing good characters across, but then actually marrying them with good secondary characters. And we're going to see that. We're about to talk to Hugh Ross, where they had 3 strong characters that they brought across for the spin-off, and then they added Hugh Ross to the mix, and that really made the whole team gel. Because without the character of Hugh Ross, the team wouldn't have been a team. They still would have been science and army. Hugh Ross is what brings together and actually creates countermeasures. Yeah. And with the unit, as I said, the secondary characters have made it really strong. Robots, you only had Tool. Tool is the sister. I mean, you only had Doctor's Companion.
Paul and Toos?
Liv.
Oh, so, Livchenko?
Livchenko was really the only person that started the whole box set off. But they married her with her sister, which was so strong. And then they bring in a couple of other people like Paul and Toos down the track. You had the robots. But once again, that world was so well realized beforehand. Yeah, but a good box set, a good I can't think of what it is now.
Spin-off?
Spin-off is just brilliant.
Yeah, the possibilities are endless. All right, let's crawl up out of the rabbit hole. We'll throw in a trailer for Night's Black Agents, a companion chronicle. It was Hugh Ross's first appearance in Big Finish, and we'll be back with the man himself just after that.
Coming soon from Big Finish Productions. Doctor Who, The Companion Chronicles. Night's Black Agents.
So who was the fella? The further I ran with him, the harder it was to tell. All I knew for sure was that, what with all the trouble he'd got me into already, I suddenly felt alive. What sort of stramash the Doctor was out to lead me into now, I could hardly guess, but we were heading towards it. That's Ravenswood Castle, I'm sure of it, which makes those quicksands, and here's a coincidence for you, Doctor, the very ones known as the Kelpie's Flow. Doctor!
You were an hour upon my land, sir.
Chased onto it, sir, by that hellish beast.
Yes, the Kelpie. I am the Reverend Meredith, minister of the parish of Lammermoor and master of this estate.
For the first time, I noticed how long and pointed his fingernails were.
You, with your garments of a carnival magician, your doctorate to no discipline you admit in decent company. Then there's the matter of your prior appearance, but a few days ago, from a blue cabinet, materializing out of thin air. And then, Doctor, when the TARDIS is mine to control, whole worlds will be mine to crush.
Subscribers get more at bigfinish.com.
With over 50 years in theatre, directing, television, film, radio, and not to mention star of Counter-Measures, it's our pleasure to welcome Hugh Ross. Welcome.
Hi there. Hi.
Thanks for joining us. It's a privilege.
It's a pleasure.
Can you start off by letting us know a little bit about where you grew up? Because you're in England at the moment, but you grew up somewhere else, I believe.
Yes, I grew up in Glasgow, in Scotland. I went to school in Scotland, and then I went to university in St Andrews for 2 years, and dropped out. I went to university rather reluctantly because I wanted to be an actor. And that usual thing your parents saying, you can't possibly, you must have something behind you. And so I went to university, but then did more acting at university. And finally what happened was that actually the professor of French wrote to my father and said, why don't you let this boy do what he wants to do instead of wasting his time and our time? So reluctantly he agreed. He said, if you promise to go back and finish your degree if things don't work out, and if ever I was out of work, my father used to say, I think maybe you should go and finish your degree. But I didn't.
So what was it that lit such a fire in you for acting that even your professor knew that you needed to do it?
I think it was there from quite an early age, really. I was very lucky. I went to a school that encouraged histrionics, perhaps. But first of all, we had a teacher we did puppets. And when I was about 8 or 9, I think, and the first year it was soft puppets with soft heads, and then the second year was papier-mâché heads. Then I had my own puppet theatre. And then in senior school started doing, there was a Shakespeare production every year, and I did one of those every year, and then I just knew that was what my passion was, really.
You went to RADA, is that right?
I did, yeah.
And was there anyone else that was going through RADA at the same time as you that we might know of?
David Bradley.
Yep.
Yep. Lisa Harrow, who's a New Zealand actress. You know who I mean? Richard Beckinsale, long since deceased, but he was quite well known for various television things.
I was just going to ask, growing up in Glasgow, the Glaswegian accent is very strong. And now, I mean, your voice is just spectacular, but very RP. At what point did your Scottish accent get drilled out of you?
Well, my mother was English, and I think that partly meant that I was never tell her, what is your first kind of Glaswegian? And then when I came to London, I suppose it was ironed out of me, pretty much. I mean, in those days, you were encouraged to learn to do RP. Not so much these days.
Having been in the industry for such a long time, what are some of the most significant changes that you've noticed in that time? What's different between then and now that you've noticed?
Oddly enough, in audio, not so much. I mean, although but I mean the way I like in that in the theatre's been taken over by a kind of conceptual thing that everything is about reinventing plays and all that kind of stuff. Whereas before we used to, I mean, when I was starting out, it was that old thing about repertory that we all went into rep and we did lots of different plays. I'll tell you, I was in rep with somebody called Judy Nunn, who was a big stalwart of Home and Away, latterly. She was a great friend of mine. Anyway, so you went into rep and you learned your craft. I'm a great believer that I don't subscribe to lots of methodology about acting. I think it's a bit like carpentry. You get better the more bits of furniture you make, and I think you get better the more acting you do. Really,
You've done a lot of directing as well. Does being an actor?
Yeah.
Say again.
Not as much, but yes, I've done some directing, and I believe. Yes, I think I'm a great fan of Moss Hart's book called Act One, in which he says at one point that the director should be the custodian of the proceedings on the stage and not the star of them. And I like facilitating. I enjoy, and when I'm directing, I like to facilitate other actors. It's fun.
Yeah.
And but now we live. It's kind of directors' theatre rules these days, and concept rules.
Have most of those regional theatres that reps used to have most of them closed now, or they're just not getting much trade?
There aren't nearly as many, and they tend to do shows on an ad hoc basis. That they don't have a permanent company. There's no continuity, nor is there at the National Theatre, or indeed the RSC anymore. There's not that thing of a group of people working together over a long period of time. What happens in Sydney? Do they have a permanent company there?
No, we have several companies, but it tends to go in and out. You'll see the same actors appear each season, but they won't be working on the same plays or in repertoire. We had there was a wonderful repertory company called the Nimrod, and they used to do plays in repertoire, but that hasn't been since, that was 1987, 88 was the last time they were operating like that. Now it's just theatre companies that run a series of productions, City Theatre Company, Ensemble Theatre Company, which employ lots of actors, but they're not working together very often.
Yeah. I think that's a pity, because I think it's, there's still a theatre in Scotland, in Pitlochry, where they still say, stay 6 days and see 6 plays, and they have 6 plays in repertoire, which is great. I mean, great for the actors, and that audiences enjoy that too, actually, I think.
Yeah, no, I remember seeing 5 plays over 7 days.
Yeah.
And using the same base sets, but they just changed background slightly, but it was same set, same cast. Most of them had a star came in for a main part, but aside was all the same. Just watching all the cast playing such different roles, and being 2 major players in Tartuffe, and then in the next one in Winter's Tale, there were just 2 minor characters in the background, and everyone had an opportunity to shine across the series. It's a shame we don't do a lot more.
Ian McKellen, when he was a young man, started something called the Actors Company, which was very much like that. That one week he'd be the bellboy, the next he'd be the lead.
There's a show that you worked on that stood out to me in the early 70s that it has a lot of Doctor Who connections, and that's Doomwatch. It was created by Jerry Davis. Terence Dudley was a producer. And as Doctor Who fans, we often bemoan the fact that lots of Doctor Who was missing. But I went looking through my Doomwatches for your episode, which is from Series 3, I think, and it's missing. So it doesn't exist anymore. Yeah.
Oh.
But an interesting co-star in that for you was Elizabeth Sladen, who went on to Doctor Who a few years later. So what are your memories of, do you remember much about that production at all? Was it a large part or?
Yes, it was a nice part, actually. And she and I became very good friends. We kind of lost touch ultimately, but and Anthony Andrews was in it as well. Do you know?
Yes, I know.
And we had a lot of fun on that. Paul Seed was in it, who then went on to be a director, I think.
He did.
Jeffrey Palmer was in it too.
He plays some characters in Doctor Who as well. Paul Seed. The
BBC were very, very. They scrubbed lots of things, which is a shame. Lots of tapes,
it's a huge shame. But a lot of people in television in those days had much more of a theatre background. Is that a big difference that you see today? Actors,
I think
younger actors are more focused on one particular area, whereas you guys were very versatile back then.
I think that's probably true, but I mean, I think that goes back to the thing of the training, of the repertory training, that they kind of. I mean, a lot of young actors just want to do TV and be, supernaturalistic and kind of not do too much acting, really. Just say the words, And not all of them. I mean, there are still some very passionate young actors about the theatre, but it's a bit different. It's interesting because lots of I mean, if you look at people like Kate Blanchett and Meryl Streep and that kind of thing, they've all come from theatre backgrounds. And I think, yeah, well, who knows where it'll all end up, but it's interesting because, just the delivery is very much more kind of casual, often.
It's been interesting. I've been watching Bridgerton for the last little bit.
Funny you should say that, because I've just this weekend watched Queen Charlotte, the spin-off.
Yes, just finished that a week or two ago with one of my daughters.
But I really enjoyed it, actually.
Well, I was looking at all the actors in it, and all of them have come from strong theatre backgrounds, RADA backgrounds. I guess because it's more of a heightened drama, and the language is heightened, they obviously were casting and looking for young people with a theatrical background. And so that's where they've actually cast from there, which is interesting. And just sitting down and watching, thinking the quality of the acting was just so high. That's why I sort of started searching them up and thinking, this is really good acting that's happening here. And once you look into it, they've all had a theatre background.
Yeah. That's probably true.
I've actually I'm very passionate about the theatre and musicals, and I've actually seen you live on stage. I saw you in Passion.
Did you?
Yeah. So one of my trips to England, I saw you on stage in Passion.
That was one of the most thrilling experiences of my entire career, I have to say, because I'd always wanted to do a musical. And Jeremy Sams, the director, and he'd worked at the RSC. He'd done music for something, I think. And he knew that I'd loved Sondheim and I loved blah, blah, blah. Then an American friend, when they knew that they were doing Passion, he said, there's a wonderful non-singing part in it that you'd be really good at. So I contacted Jeremy and he saw me, and I had to go and sing Anyone Can Whistle for him. And I got the job. And it was, I was so impressed by the discipline of the musical theatre performers, and the way that, it was a pleasure to go to the warm-up and all that kind of stuff. It was great. And then as a result of doing that, I did the following, because Maria Friedman, I think, was instrumental in this, and she was Fosca in Passion. She then did Lady in the Dark at the National Service in that. So I had a little musical phase in my career.
Well, I actually have your album, the original cast London production of Passion. And of course, you come up on the cast list and you come up for some of the tracks, even though you can not do a lot of singing. But I mean, once your voice and some of your narration in some of those tracks.
That's nice that you do it. With Maria, I think, told me that Sondheim was Sondheim's favourite recording of Passion. That because it was done. We did it over 2 nights in a big theatre in North London with a big orchestra and everything. I think it's a good recording.
Yeah, it's a great performance, and it's a very different performance from I forget the character's name, the lead, the daughter. Yes, it's a very different performance than the Broadway production, and so it's interesting comparing the two. I just think it's very very different styles and things happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's my favorite version of Passion as well.
Oh, good. Oh, that's good. Delighted to hear that.
You want to talk some more theatre, Philip?
No, I'm happy to move on.
I won't stop you.
You'll just edit it all out later, like you did last time.
No, I won't. Well, it sounds like theatre is your passion, so to speak. We were just talking about that production, but you also worked in various other mediums too, even up to huge films like I noticed you're in Patriot Games. So a huge film. Is Harrison Ford really as grumpy as he comes across in real life?
he wasn't remotely grumpy. He was, he was a lot younger, but he was very, very, he was very nice, very good fun, actually. And that scene, talk about luxury. It was two whole days, that short scene we did. And and I remember saying to him, Harrison, would you mind very much if I had a photograph taken with you? And he was, sure. And I have a lovely photograph with Harrison Ford. What amazed me actually about him was he understood the camera so well. He would say, Hugh, if you just put your weight slightly more in the ball of your right foot for my eye line, it would really help. And he kind of knew exactly, how the camera was going to take that. And he would go and check the shot after we'd done it. But he wasn't a bit grumpy, not at all grumpy.
Maybe it's only the last few years when he's been reprising these science fiction roles, and the fans are asking him very fanish questions. He seems to get a bit sick of them. However, that grumpy persona, I've just finished watching a series on Apple that he's just done called Shrinking. I don't know if you've heard that, but it's he has that grumpy persona, but it is comedy gold. It is one of the funniest things I've seen. I was rolling around. So I would recommend, if you want to see Harrison Ford in a comedy, Shrinking is the one to watch. It's recent. Yeah, only in the last year or so.
This year.
Shrinking.
Is it this year, is it?
Yeah.
Have you seen it, Philip?
I have seen it. It's brilliant.
It's
I love
really
Harrison
funny.
Ford, and I don't think he's grumpy. Not liking being pestered by fans is one thing. I think on set he's brilliant. Look at the stuff he's done with Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher. They have a ball together.
All the interviews and screen grabs, they like to focus on his grumpy moments with the fan questions.
Yeah, we don't believe anything you see or hear.
Well, I was hoping to lead to Shrinking because I just thought that was absolutely sensational. And if you haven't seen that, Hugh, I would seek that out. It's very, very funny.
I would make a point of having to look at it. Yeah, good. Oh,
something I saw you in only in the last couple of weeks was Outlander. Tell us about that. My wife is making me ask you this question. She's a huge, huge fan, and some very powerful scenes you had in that episode a couple of weeks back.
Yeah, it was good. It was talk about God-given opportunity. It arrived just before lockdown, and I did season 5, and we called it in our house here bystander because I had so little to do, and then in the books the story then does develop slowly, and they kept us on. So I did 3 series in the end, and series 7, this current one, is there's another couple of nice things later on, and it was a lovely job. There were great people, great atmosphere. Very, very nice. It was very good fun.
5, 9, 5, 7, 0, 9, 8, 2.
Coming soon from Big Finish Productions.
We all know what happened at Coal Hill.
I put forward the recommendation for a special counter-insurgency group.
Counter-measures.
It's been a bit quiet, so Toby's got us rather marking time.
Aha, my loyal team.
You hoping to track down some aliens?
Gilmore, there's something behind that glass, breathing smoke.
Someone or something is trying to contact us from whatever lies behind that threshold.
Somebody stop it talking!
So it is alien.
Well, it looks that way.
That door started swinging on its own.
Who's up there?
Rachel, this is poltergeist activity.
Who are you? This is your last warning.
It's in here with us right now.
Behind you, Sarge.
No!
Get out of my mind! Open fire!
5, 9, 5, 7, 0, 9, 8, 2.
So how did you come to be working for Big Finish all those years ago?
Lisa Bauman, do you know who I mean? She does.
Yes.
We know Lisa.
Yeah, I knew Lisa from, ages ago. And she was directing something, just asked me to come and do it. And I went and did it. They liked me. And then And of course, the big thing was Countermeasures, which we just all loved doing, and I just so loved playing that part. It was such an absolute sneaky old thing, but it was really good fun.
Do you know if they created that role specifically with you in mind, or?
Well, I think David Richardson did imply that Pratt was part of it.
He started off quite hard at first, but then as the series developed and then it went into the 70s style series, he was quite soft, and there's a lot of character development in Sir Toby Kinsella.
Yeah.
Throughout Countermeasures. So how did you like working with that team? So Pamela Salem and Simon Williams.
Great fun, very good fun. Simon and I get on like a house on fire. Pamela, oddly enough, I'd done a television with years and years before. She had no recollection of it whatsoever. I remembered vaguely. Can't even remember what it's called. And
I can't imagine why you would remember Pamela, though, and she may not remember you. Sorry, we've talked to Pamela, and she's always been a crush of mine.
Oh, really?
Really? Yeah, and I remember everything she's been in.
I think, was it something called Tycoon?
It does actually. Yes,
I think it was Tycoon.
Right.
Tycoon was a very odd job in which the producer was a maniac, sort of semi-charming maniac, but he cast me in that as he was called Tommy Meadows, which obviously should have been a Cockney, I think, and I was the chauffeur to D'Angelo, and it was a very, very odd bit of casting, and I think I was probably rather bad in it. But there were lots of nice guest stars. Always the actors are the saving grace of these mad jobs. But we enjoyed doing that. They're a nice group of people.
So Pamela hadn't remembered working with you, but what was it like connecting with her via the microphone?
Oh, it was terrific. I mean, she's great. Is it recently you've talked to her?
About 12 months or so ago, I think it was.
Yeah. I'm rather sorry. She's she's over there and we are over here. It was a great pity that Countermeasures came to an end, really. And and Karen, of course, Karen is good fun too. We teased her a lot. She was good to tease.
Do you remember much about the scripts that you were getting?
Not in detail, particularly.
Yeah,
I remember Simon and I used to say, "Do you understand this?" and well, I think so. Because some of them are quite dense, and that's what so amazes me about all the committed fans, that they completely get it all, completely get all the kind of what's going on. It's kind of an alternative universe to me, really.
Were you concerned when you got a script saying who killed Toby Kinsella?
Well, no. Yes, I was. I'm amused by that, but I gathered it was going to be a.
You survived.
A tease.
He survived.
Yeah. Is Countermeasures done very well over there, or is it? I mean, I'm not quite sure how these things are gauged.
Well, Big Finish never releases its figures in terms of what sells, how much it sells. They always hold all of that very close to their chest. It's very popular amongst a lot of people though, because it's such a clever spin-off, and I think because the characters, the three main characters were such a big hit in one particular show. I mean, it's bizarre. It's a 4-episode show of Doctor Who from 1987, 88.
Yeah.
But those three characters were just so beloved that they decided they could make, I don't know, is there 6 or 7 box sets of 4 episodes plus spin-off episodes? You were brought in to do a 50th anniversary special with Sylvester McCoy and Sophie Aldred. So the team kept coming back in various forms.
Yeah.
And I think part of its joy was the fact that how seamlessly you fitted into the team. I was saying before in terms of what makes a good spin-off, it's the new characters you bring in working. And of course, your character is what bonded the whole team together. because you had the science, the military, and then you brought in the political. But early on, I thought you were going to go bad. Like, I really wasn't sure where the character was heading, because you really couldn't tell whether the character was going to be good or evil. And there's a lot of times I was thinking he's going to betray them.
Yeah. Yes, I like that kind of ambiguity. I remember once, I don't know if there's a film of it, I think, The Death and the Maiden, which is...
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Very powerful
and
play.
I played the torturer in that.
Right.
In London. And people used to say, I couldn't decide whether you had done it or you hadn't done it. And some nights I'd go on and do it and think, yes, I definitely had done it. Then other nights I would think, no, maybe I didn't do it. It was kind of wonderfully ambiguous, opaque.
Yeah, I still remember seeing that play and just not knowing whether he was guilty or not. Like, you have no idea by the end of the play. I saw John Gayden play the role, and it was amazing part.
Yeah.
How long did you play that for on stage?
Sort of, I think about 6 to 9 months.
You did
with Penny Downey, who's Antipodean. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've heard of her.
Yeah, she's a good actress.
Yeah.
And Danny Webb.
Oh, yes, okay, yep. So because it's just the three actors, isn't it? It's just three. Yep. It's Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, Dwayne.
No, you're right. We'll always get back to theatre. Before coming to Big Finish, you'd done lots and lots of radio. So, how did other radio jobs differ from Big Finish? Are they unique with the way they make their product?
Yes, they are. You know how they do it in separate booths.
So no one else does that you...
Not in my experience.
Right.
And some people at the BBC are frightfully snobbish about it. And say,
is that right?
It's terrible the way they do it at Big Finish. It can't possibly work. But actually, when you're reading a script, it's very difficult to communicate with another actor. You kind of look down at the script, then look up at the other actor and pretend you're playing the scene with them. But actually, if it's all about sound and, you respond to the voice, really, I think it works very well, the Big Finish process. It hasn't been like that, though, recently, because that was when we were all in the boat house, or whatever it's called. But now, the last couple of things I've done have been at the Sound House, which is quite a different experience. It's more like proper old-fashioned radio.
Is it?
Yeah. They're not doing the booth thing. Yeah.
Is it more you're set up in different areas of the same room, but sort of in corners? How is the setup working now?
Sort of arranged in kind of a semicircle of booths, really. And self-contained booths. And you could see each other through the booths, through the walls. It worked very well. I was very surprised at first, but it really does work very well. You know that it was Big Finish was famous for when they were there for their fantastic lunches.
Everyone talked about the lunches.
You've experienced those?
Oh, what? Fantastic. Toby did lunches. Yeah.
Yeah, it's sad that it's closed down now, isn't it?
It's very sad, yeah. And I found the whole thing of things going remote I find that very boring, actually. One of the things I do is that I'm on the audition panel at RADA, and they've been doing that remotely recently, and I find that there's no substitute for being in the room with somebody, I don't think, actually. I mean, yeah.
I mean, a large part of being able to act is being able to take notes. And if you're just sending a recording, how can you actually say, can you try that second line this way and see if they can do it? Because to me, the skill of acting is being able to say, I want you to change this word, change that, and they can do it. And if you can't take notes, you can't take direction, well, you're not... And just videoing yourself and sending a video recording is just an interpretation, but doesn't show any ability to take notes to change.
Yeah.
So did you do any remote work during the pandemic? How did you survive during that period?
Well, as I say, I was extremely blessed in that I'd done season 5 of Outlander, so I had that in the bank, and I knew I was probably going to do season 6. And I didn't do. I mean, Sian Phillips said to me, "Oh yes, I've got a little home studio under the stairs." I didn't do that. I don't know why I didn't do that. I just didn't get round to it. And I mean, a lot of people still do things remotely. Sometimes, the last Big Finish, I think half of us were in the studio and half were remote. And yeah.
That's right. They're doing sort of hybrid recording now, aren't they?
Yes, they are. Yeah.
So Outlander season 6, that was under sort of COVID restrictions, is that right? When you went back,
largely. I mean, it was all stopped completely. Then when we went back, it was absolutely ferocious restrictions. We were all in easy ups, separate little kind of things between scenes and stuff. And then last year was all sort of back to normal. I'm glad your wife likes Outlander.
Oh, I like it too. I like it too. I watch it with her. Yeah, I do.
Did you watch? Very good. Have you watched this week's one? It was beginning of the war. I think so. I just thought it was a bit. I thought it was a bit lacking in kind of.
Well, you weren't in it, so
that's probably what it was. Yes,
that's the problem.
Now, coming out soon, might be out by the time we release it, is Time Slip, which is the last thing that's, well, I don't know whether you may have recorded other things since Time Slip, but in terms of...
Yeah.
Okay, so Time Slip's about to come out. What was it like working into a production like that?
It was great. I really, really enjoyed it. Oh, yes, there was that. And the previous one was the one with Murray Melvin, whatever that was called.
That was a Torchwood.
Mm. Yeah.
That was great, that one too.
Yes. He was extraordinary. Yes. Yep. I need to. It's time I did another one. I must nudge them and tell them I'm ready and willing.
Were these all recorded long ago? Before they weren't recorded before the
pandemic? Was recorded about 4 or 5 months ago, I think. Yeah. Yes.
So you worked with a whole heap of directors. What are some of the different directors and styles that you like in terms of directing for audio?
Well, they're all very different, sort of different, but I mean, very good. Ken Bentley's very good fun to work with, and kind of quite. We have quite a good laugh actually with Ken. Lisa's very, very meticulous. Who else have I worked with?
Helen Goldwyn was Time Slip. Helen Goldwyn.
Yeah. I don't remember that name at all.
Helen Goldwyn from Time Slip.
Oh, Helen. She was marvelous. I loved her. She was very good fun.
So both Lisa and Helen are actors primarily before directors, unlike Ken, who's a director. What's different in their styles of directing?
Well, I suppose that actors understand actors and how actors. But I think Ken's been around, and I think Ken's done a bit of acting probably back in the dark ages. No, he's good with actors. Oh yeah, sorry, I've just completely forgotten about Helen for a minute. She was very, very nice. I liked her a lot. It's funny because it's all, you go in and do a day, and then you kind of bond for the day, and then you move on, kind of thing.
That's the whole life of actors, isn't it? That you meet someone, you have an intense time with a group of people, and then you all part, and then reconnect sometimes don't reconnect, but always stories to tell.
I've just done this last week. I did something in for something called the Byline Festival, which was in Devon, and there were 5 of us, and we all. The situation was all a bit difficult because the weather was terrible. We all got soaked. None of us liked the place where we were supposed to spend the night, and but we were all supremely well bonded by the end of our 24 hours in Devon. As a result of it all.
I mean, is it the worst jobs you remember the best, as opposed to the best ones?
Yeah, well, yes, you do remember. I mean, people are always talking, I did Sharp. I did 3 of the Sharp stories.
Yep.
And that was filming in the Ukraine in very, very difficult circumstances with terribly, terribly hot weather. And we were in an ex-KGB sanatorium, and they ran out of drinking water and all sorts of things. But I certainly do remember it vividly. And again, it was a very bonding experience.
Have you ever been approached at the theatre by Doctor Who fans? Because I know a lot of people that we talk to that work for Big Finish, they're often surprised at how Doctor Who fans will seek them out for autographs and things. Has that ever happened to you?
Occasionally something happens like that, but no, not a lot. I think because perhaps unless you're a big Counter-Measures fan, I suppose, perhaps you don't. I mean, otherwise it's just popping in and out of stories, I suppose. Yes, I did do one of the convention things for the name of the people. Can't remember what they're called. Paul Ballard. Anyway, and there were a lot of fans there that I was amazed by how well versed they were in all the ins and outs of it all.
So what else do you have coming up?
At this moment, absolutely nothing.
So,
a blank page. I finished on Friday, and I did do a self-tape, which I hate doing self-tape, last week for something quite nice. But haven't heard anything, as often happens. Not Tim Pigott, Samuel West.
Yep.
Tweeted recently. I did something very stupid today. I looked at all the things that I'd been up for recently and did self-tapes and didn't get them, and looked to see who'd got them. They'd be very angry.
So is self-tapes now just the only way to get a part? Is that how it's all being done?
Largely. I mean, I have done a Zoom meeting a couple of times, but largely. I mean, again, the thing of not being in the room with them. It used to be, in the beginning, Doom Watch, you'd go and meet the director and have a little chat, and he might say, would you like to read this scene? And you'd read the scene and say, would you like to do it? And you'd say yes. And then your agent would get a call. So they didn't see, now, I think the thing about self-tapes is these casting directors are told to get a certain number of people to do them, and then the producers and directors are spoiled for choice in a kind of curious way.
Can I just say thank you very much for all that you've done for Big Finish. We really appreciate it, and thank you so much for chatting with us. It's been a pleasure.
An absolute pleasure. Thank you very much indeed.
From Big Finish Productions.
Lady Claire.
Lady Suzanne Claire.
The new Counter-Measures, the Mavellan Maneuver.
She's back. And she's branched out.
They took the robo-helper with them.
Of course they did. Things are turning out very well, aren't they?
Well, what are we waiting for, Gilmore? Shoot her!
I can't shoot Rachel!
She's lifted Alison 2 feet off the ground and is throttling her in midair.
You see, you four have no idea how much of a thorn in my side you've been over the past few years.
What are you planning? Shall I show you?
You've interfered.
Call in the troops. We're being invaded.
You've meddled.
That is what we offer.
What on earth? You've prevented me from making all manner of lucrative deals.
Hold your fire! Someone's coming out!
Without ever realizing I was involved.
Open fire!
They found us! Run!
Robo-helper, destroy them!
Big Finish. We love stories.
Maybe, but I have this awful feeling we've missed something.
Well, it was lovely to catch up with Hugh.
It was lovely to catch up with Hugh too.
Oh, yes. Boom, boom. We'd love to recommend, if you have not heard the Counter-Measures series, it is a must listen. Well, there are plenty of spin-offs that you should listen to, but this is one of the best. If you're sort of ever been hesitant to listen to it, don't be, because it's absolutely wonderful, isn't it?
No, and there's some great plot lines, conspiracy stuff through it. Each box set is just brilliant. They're fantastic stories and amazing characters and political intrigue and just so well written.
Changing the tone halfway through, like it doesn't even sound the same. The production, they've specifically made it to sound 60s in the first lot of box sets and then sound 70s in the second lot of box, and it's just wonderful the way they've done that. Big Finish are masters at doing the retro style.
They are, and
it's supposed to be.
There's a great story with Seventh Doctor and Ace, which was done for the 60th anniversary.
It's called the
1963 50th.
50th.
Sorry, 50th. This is the 60th coming up. I'm getting confused.
It was called the Assassination Games.
Yes, 1963, the Assassination Games, which is amazing. And also, they did two box sets, so two single stories, one with Daleks, one with Movellans, which was really good too.
To finish it off, yeah.
Yeah, because once again, Daleks are big threats, which don't come to Earth very often for good reason, because only the Doctor can deal with them. But they managed to do it really well with that crew.
Yep. And Movellans are always interesting too. So that always makes me look twice if I ever see Movellan in the title.
Yep.
All right. That only leaves us for this episode, Philip, to recommend something. Now, what I'd like to recommend is, hang on, I've just checked my list and it's your turn. Sorry.
It's my turn. Okay. I've been listening to That's okay. I bought myself a new set of headphones during the week. Because I joined a pool and I've been swimming every day, and I wanted headphones I could actually take in the water, and so I found they're waterproof. And
can I see them?
Yeah, they're here. So you can see they're waterproof, and they don't go in your ear. They actually go onto your bone next to your ear,
right?
So you can actually swim underwater and hear. And so,
how do they work? Like, how do they sound? I mean,
they sound great. Yeah, I mean, it's not stunning sound. But in terms of they've been great, and I've been able to swim with them and do my laps and listen to audiobooks. Yeah,
wow.
So
okay,
that's been my little purchase for the week.
That's cool.
And so anyhow, I didn't load any Big Finish onto there first because I thought I just wanted to test them out. I didn't know what the sound quality would be like, and so the first thing I downloaded was actually a book I've been wanting to listen to for a while, which is by Matthew Perry, who people might know from the actor from Friends, because he's written an autobiography called Friends. No, what's it called? It's called Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing. And so it's been really interesting listening to Matthew Perry's autobiography, talk about his life. I mean, he's known as this big fun guy and comedian, but has had a dreadful addiction with alcohol and drugs all his life. So basically, for the time he was 14 and started drinking, he knew he was an alcoholic. And so it's been really interesting hearing him talk about life and success and, and friends and what that meant to him and getting those roles. And just trying to work out, would you really want to be him? With all the fame, with all the money, I think he talks about $7 million he's spent in therapies over the years, which I can't even conceive how you could have $7 million, let alone spend $7 million just in therapy. But in his last season, I think 2 seasons, he was getting paid $1 million an episode, which is just astounding. I mean, the first couple of seasons he didn't have much money, but the bigger the show got, of course, the more their pay went up every time, and so massive amounts of money. But so much of that's been destroyed through bad health and through drugs, etc. But it's a no hard hose barred, honest look at life. I can understand people who might be suffering from addictions where this might be helpful in terms of someone who's actually struggled and continues to struggle with addiction and what that looks like. But anyhow, I found it quite engaging and riveting listening to this life, and he goes from today to past to today to past. And it's just a very open, honest view of his life, his childhood, being abandoned or feeling abandoned, and how he therefore treated others. It's just a very interesting insight into someone who you feel like from TV, but this book's I don't think we did know him, because now he's being honest about what he was really like. So great little book. I'm just enjoying that. What about you, Dwayne? Excellent. What are you listening to?
Well, strange you should recommend an audiobook, because I'm going to recommend some audiobooks too that I've just acquired because they've only just been released. And about 18 months ago, we had Simon Fisher-Becker on the show, and he was talking about the 3 autobiographical books that he'd released. The first one was called My Dalek Has a Puncture. The second one was called My Dalek Has Another Puncture. And the third book was called Let Zygons Be Zygons. And they have finally been released as, I think they've been out on CD for a while, but I'm a bit against postage at the moment. It just costs too much to post. So they've been made available on a Bandcamp page, so you can buy them from there as downloads. And I've been listening to them, and pretty incredible. Do you remember Simon talking to us about being bullied and some of the things that have happened to him as far as physical assaults and things go? I haven't heard everything yet, but some of the things that happened to him at school was just absolutely heartbreaking. And as someone who was bullied at school relentlessly myself, I could really empathise with his story too. So that was just part of it. He's very easy to listen to, and if you want to get a taste of the books before you listen to the books, go back and listen to our episode with Simon. It was a great episode, very enjoyable. So I can recommend those 3 audiobooks.
Sounds good.
And finally, Philip, where can we find information on Katie Manning live in Australia?
Well, if you go to our website, but also if you look directly, okay, you have to correct me. Is it Katie Manning
Sirensofaudio.com.
Sirensofaudio.com. Say that again, because you said it properly.
So it's Katie Manning.sirensofaudio.com.
Great.
And I'll put it on the screen.
Great, even better. That way people can see it. They do much better than me. Get your tickets. The VIP tickets are coming close to being sold out, maybe sold out by now in Melbourne. Tickets are going really well. So, make sure you get your tickets. The sooner the better, because we can plan better what we do and how we organise the day too. Better numbers.
Absolutely. All right, it's been a fun episode, Philip, talking about all things spin-offs.
It has been. It's been great.
All right, until next time, thank you so much for your company, Philip, and thank you for your company too, our dear listeners. We'll catch you all next time.
Yeah, bye everyone.
This has been the Sirens of Audio episode 166, Counter-Measured, with our guest Hugh Ross and your hosts Philip Etney and Dwayne Bunny. Original theme music composed by Joe Kramer. More about us and tickets to Katie Manning in Australia from sirensofaudio.com. Comment below to let us know what you thought of the episode, or contact us via email at sirensofaudio@gmail.com or any one of our socials. Thanks for listening, audiophiles. We'll hear you next time.